Hello everyone, good day to all of you. Hope you're all doing well. I wanted to give a review today talking about the Waxi boots. Classic design, a lot of history behind it, but even today I would say that this holds up really well. I've had these for several months now after I did a pre-order. You can get these on Commando store and probably other places you can pick them up too. I know you occasionally will see used ones, for instance, on eBay as well, but brand new, picked them up there after a few months wait, not too bad, and been wearing them a lot since then. For the type of usage that I've been putting these through, generally around here, hiking a bunch. Usually it's more so mountainous type of semi-arid environment. Overall, I would say that these boots do way better in an actual desert. And I actually did wear these on a fairly recent trip down to southern Utah and somewhat Arizona, and it was nice. These actually held up really, really well down there, which is why I say they kind of work great as a desert boot. It's just pretty much just getting into the dead of winter just after I picked these up, but even then I was wearing these kind of every day because I really do like how these look. They make for an excellent everyday type of just footwear that still kind of retains that nice classic look while still being an actual proper boot. So that way you still have ankle support and all the nice features that you would look for in a boot. So getting started, I wanted to kind of go just chronologically and start with my experiences just right out of the box and how much break-in these require, which is, I would say, a lot. These are really not a surprise, really, for any leather boot that they do require a ton of break-in. But I would say these in particular, I had pretty major hot spots, especially around my ankle sort of area and somewhat around the pinky toe area. Now, although I say that these require a lot of break-in, what I mean by that is they do start off remarkably painful with a lot of hot spots, but they do break in really quickly. So I got these totally broken in after just about a week of usage, and then they were totally fine. If you want that to go quicker, you can always use, for example, oil on them. Once they have broken in though, super comfortable boot, like I said, no hot spots now. One thing I want to point out is these may not look like it because they have more of the traditional design, but these actually have a gigantic toe box, which you can kind of vaguely see if I put it up like this right here. And that is really great for hiking. Of course, you can have that toe splay, so you have good footing, especially when you're going up particularly tall mountains and all that. One issue, however, if you are using these for a ton of mountainous hiking, is you need to keep in mind that these are not waterproof in the slightest. These are just a traditional leather type of boot, very thin leather as well, if you can see right there. Very comparable to, say, your cowboy roper type of boots. And just, you can see how the tongue kind of attaches here. It's just totally open, so there isn't really a way to treat these to be properly waterproofed either. Now, obviously, if you're just going through small puddles, like everything down here is totally fine. There's no issues with the stitching or anything like that. This does have a leather sole. Now, they do actually make two versions of this. This is the lug version. They make a anti-track version, which is more of the traditional sort of South African military type that they used back in the Bush War. I did not want that version whatsoever because I wanted this for actual hiking, and around here I really need the traction. So you can see how aggressive this is, and this is actual rubber as well. When you get this for several months, and even right now kind of, you can still smell, it smells kind of like a tire. One thing I want to point out, if you can see right there, this says that it's non-slip. So on most natural terrain that I've walked across, it works pretty well for that. But what I've noticed is if I'm walking on a lot of indoor surfaces, particularly like tile, then this actually does like to slip a lot. So when I'm walking into, say, a restaurant, there's a few around here in particular that I go to fairly frequently, and I have to really watch my footing almost every time. But this is a solid rubber sole, you can see. No layers, so it's very good and durable. One other thing on here, you can also see the heel may not look too big when I'm just holding it up like right now, but compared to a lot of the other boots, at least that I'm used to, this is a very tall heel portion right here. And it takes a little bit of getting used to, especially when you're driving. I've noticed I kind of have to position myself pretty deliberately differently so that my foot doesn't get caught up on the pedals. But when you're actually walking with it, like I said, it just takes a little bit of getting used to, and then it's totally fine. And actually, one point on this, since this is solid rubber, this does remind me. So although you have the main boot itself here, you can see, which is a very lightweight, nice, super breathable leather, the rubber sole down here actually is pretty heavy, and it ends up making the whole boot fairly heavy. Now, my main point of comparison for these boots is with Bates, now called Wolverine type of boots. I've used those for well over a decade now, and I love them, and I will still wear them a lot, for example, in the winter when they work better for that. But in comparison, even though the baits that I'll put up on the screen here, they look more like a kind of more modern military type of boot, and they look like they'd be more heavyweight, they're actually lighter. I weighed one of these boots versus one of the Bates boots, and I'll put up the exact weights on the screen. You don't really feel it too much on your foot when you're actually walking around with it, but it is something there, you can definitely tell. One more thing I did want to point out on the comfort of these boots is as far as the arch support. Now, for me, I usually need to put in an extra insole with better arch support regardless, but on these, they felt, or I should say with the regular just insole that comes in here, felt particularly flat, and I really need to add a ton of extra arch support to these. Your mileage will vary depending on your own foot shape, but that was my experience with it. The regular insole is kind of lacking, in my opinion, overall. There's not much padding anywhere. It's just kind of there, just does the bare minimum. Now, one thing I want to point out, see, I'm holding both of these right now. The buckle is towards the outside. Of course, you do have the regular lacing up right here, just like a normal boot, but then yeah, you do have an extra buckle on the top. I don't really totally like this being on the outside. Comparing it to the Bates that I have, I usually use a side zip, and the side zip is towards the inside, which is nice because when you're donning the boots, you can just put your foot up on your other leg, of course, and then just zip it up. In the case of these, it makes it a little bit more awkward, as you can imagine, to actually buckle these. But on the other hand, the benefit of the buckle being on the outside is if you're needing to kind of bring your feet together to climb over certain things or whatever you're doing when you're hiking, then these buckles can't catch potentially on each other. So personally, I would prefer it being on the opposite side, but there is kind of a give and take there, pros and cons either way. And this is just a standard, literally just like a belt buckle, you can see, just right there. And then it just comes across, you have 3 points where you can tighten it down, right there. Similar leather as the rest of the boot. Of course, you could take a leather punch and punch in more holes if you need it really tight, or if you need it really loose, you could punch an extra one in right there. There's plenty of extra room on the strap there. And I didn't have any issues with the regular laces that come on here either. They're totally fine. These are just the standard ones. You can see I didn't bother changing these out or anything. They are color matched to the boot itself, which is a good point to talk about the color of these. They do offer these in a lot of different colors. This one in particular is their dark brown, which I'll try to put up an overlay or something so you can see this in a bit better lighting. It looks really, really nice. I like this color. It looks very kind of classic, vintage-ish. They make a more red-ish type of almost a russet brown. I think they call it the chestnut color, and I was pretty close to picking that color up myself, but yeah, just from looking at other reviews, I thought that maybe looked a bit more red. They have a more tan version, and then they just, of course, have just your regular, totally black version as well. So they're just different colors. I haven't had any problems with the coloration on this. I've used some cheaper leather, for example, gloves in the past where the dye sucks, and it comes off like greenish and really quickly, and it's just gross. But this is a very good, high-quality dye. No problems across either of the boots. Here you can see. And as far as wear and durability, these are really good and durable thus far. Don't have a gigantic amount of time on them, not like years, but several months really. Just got normal crease marks, of course, from walking in them, but no tears, no stitching coming loose, no cracks in the sole. One kind of funny thing, just as a little side note, this lug spacing is pretty much perfect to get spent 9mm casings or disintegrating belt link stuck in. I've had that happen numerous times with these. Now, if you do want to pick these boots up for yourself, of course, like I said at the start of the video, I picked these up off of Commando Store. You can also pretty frequently find used ones, for example, on eBay. The current going price, or at least I should say, when I bought these and the current price that they have listed on the site, Commando Store, is $170. So not too bad, a little bit on the more expensive side, which kind of makes sense given their more traditional construction. They are actually made in Africa to the pretty traditional type of specs and design. And so the only thing I would say to look out for when you are ordering or buying these is go an entire size down. Every other review says this too. They actually say that on the Commando Store site when you're buying these as well, and definitely holds true. So I normally wear a size 13 boot and bought these in a size 12, and they fit me pretty much perfectly. Maybe ever so slightly roomy. These are designed to be worn with a wool sock underneath, and when you do that, just kind of a little bit of a thicker wool sock under it, it's a really, really good fit. But if you wear these with more of just like a really thin sock, it'll probably still be a little bit on the big side then. So thanks for watching this review on the Waxi boots. Overall, great pair of boots. I really like them. They have a really nice vintage sort of classic look, but they actually do still hold up and function really, really well, even nowadays. Nothing too fancy about them, just nice leather construction, no synthetic materials or anything like that. Just nice, straightforward. So if you have any other questions, or you want to add anything yourself, if you own Waxies, or whatever boots you want to mention in the comments below, then feel free to do that. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you all in the next one. Take care. I'll see you all then.